What a performance from Rangers today. A solid win against Ross County to keep the momentum rolling, and you could feel the energy from the lads right from the kickoff set the tone, and the team looked sharp and ready for what's shaping up to be a massive week ahead. And speaking of massive, today's headlines are absolutely unmissable. We've got everything from Rangers eyeing up a cheeky swoop on a Celtic star. You heard that right. To talk of Postecoglou facing the sack because of us. And if that's not enough, there's news of Clement being on death row ahead of a massive week. A shocking revelation from Rangers AGM that'll leave you fuming, and why we must act fast to lock down one of our top players. Stick around. Trust me, you do not want to miss a second of this one. Well, it seems like there's a bit of drama brewing on both sides of the divide, eh? Let's start with young Daniel Cummings. The lads clearly caught the eye of clubs down south, with Wolves, Fulham, and Ipswich Town sniffing about. 17 goals in 14 games for their wee B team. Fair play to him, that's decent. But here's the thing, he's not even had a sniff of the first team at Celtic. Brendan Rodgers is talking the usual fluff about mentality and professionalism, but if the boy's good enough to be hailed as the next big thing, why is he warming the bench for the B team instead of getting a shot at the top level? It's a bit of a puzzle, isn't it? You wonder if Celtic are bottling it with him, or if there's something we're not seeing. Now, if he's running down his contract and Celtic are set to lose him for pennies, well, under £500,000 in compensation, it's got a sting for them, hasn't it? Especially if he ends up thriving elsewhere. Imagine if he goes down south, bangs in goals for fun, and Celtic are left scratching their heads. Better yet, imagine if we pinched him. A cheeky move like that would wind them right up. You love to see it. And then there's talk of us going after Joe Gelhardt. Decent pedigree, cracking numbers for England's youth sides. But let's not forget his time at Leeds and Sunderland hasn't exactly been stellar. Seems like he's in the wilderness at Leeds now, so maybe Clement reckons he can bring something fresh to our attacking lineup. Still, you've got to wonder if he's the right fit for Rangers or just another project we're hoping to polish up. Here's the spicy question for you lot. Would you want Rangers to go after Celtic's lad Cummings, even if it's just to see their fans implode? Or should we focus on proven talent like Gelhardt instead of gambling on a youngster? Let's have it in the comments. No holding back. John Souttar. He's really stepped up this season. Hasn't he? Big performances, solid at the back, and clearly someone Clement wants to keep around as part of his master plan for rebuilding Rangers. 18 months left on his deal. Might sound like there's a bit of time, but let's be honest, when have we ever seen a slow, drawn-out contract negotiation end well for us? Chris Boyd's bang on the money here. Get the pen out and get it sorted. The man's 28, which is prime time for a centre-back, and you've got to love that he's a Scot who knows what it means to wear the shirt at Rangers. He's not just any old defender either. He's someone you can build the defense around. And let's face it, our backline could do with that bit of stability, couldn't it? Every time he plays, you can see he gets it. He knows what's at stake every time he pulls on that jersey. But then there's this offer on the table, talk from Clement. What does that even mean? Are we haggling over the price of chips at the Barras? If the club thinks he's as important as Boyd and Clement are making out, there shouldn't be any faffing about. This whole laid-back approach needs to get in the bin. We can't afford to mess this up, not with Souttar being such a key figure. Losing him would be an unmitigated disaster, especially when we're trying to claw our way back to the top. Here's one to stir the pot. If Rangers can't get Souttar signed up quickly, would it be down to Clement's so-called relaxed approach? Or are the board playing silly games again with contracts? What do you reckon? Who's to blame if we lose him? Let me know in the comments. Oh, now this is a delicious one, isn't it? Postecoglou's Spurs stumbling at Rangers and him getting the boot straight after. The irony of it would be enough to make Celtic fans choke on their bovril. Imagine the former Celtic boss coming back to Glasgow thinking he's in for a stroll at Rangers only to get a footballing lesson and a good dose of you're getting sacked in the morning from the Rangers faithful. You couldn't write it. Well, actually, Scott McDermott just did, but you get my drift. Let's be clear, though. Postecoglou's done well for himself at Spurs so far, but cracks are starting to show, and if there's one thing Rangers fans know, it's how to pile on the pressure when the chips are down. A result like that would put Clement on a pedestal, especially if it's followed up with a proper triumph over Celtic at Hampton. That would be one heck of a week, wouldn't it? Beating Postecoglou and Rodgers, we'd be getting Christmas early at Rangers. Still, let's not get carried away. Our season's been anything but smooth so far, and as much as there's room for optimism, this is a knife-edge moment for Clement. A good European run, a win in the League Cup, and a solid January transfer window could be the reset we've been waiting for. But we've been stung by false dawns before, haven't we? Here's one for the comments. If Rangers do the unthinkable and Ange gets sacked because of us, does that cement Clement as a managerial hero already? Or do we need to see him lift that League Cup to start taking him seriously? Let's hear it. The old death row analogy. How cheery. But let's be honest, managing Rangers is no walk in the park, is it? Philippe Clement's barely unpacked his bags, and already some folk are sharpening the knives. 14 points behind Celtic, and suddenly every match feels like a cup final. This week is a biggie though. Ross County, Spurs, and then that Hampton showdown. It's proper make or break stuff, and Clement must be feeling the heat like he's standing in front of the pie oven at halftime. You've got to credit him for holding it together amid the chaos. The boardroom's been about as stable as a pint on a wobbly table, and he's inherited a squad that's more patchwork than well-oiled machine. Plus, while we're spending eye-watering amounts like £11 million on players, Celtic are over there smirking with their organized setup. It's like watching your neighbor put up perfect Christmas lights while yours keep short-circuiting. Still, the next 7 days could flip the narrative entirely, and taking something off Postecoglou's Spurs would be the kind of European scalp that gets everyone buzzing. But the real deal? That League Cup final. It's Clement's chance to show he's got what it takes to deliver when it truly matters. No silverware, and those grumbles about him being on death row will turn into outright howls. Here's the biggie to stir things up. If Clement doesn't bring home the League Cup, should Rangers stick with him and back him in January? Or is it time for yet another shake-up at the top? Have your say, folks. £810,000 for 5 players? That's not just shocking, it's embarrassing. Tam McManus is right to call it incredible, but not in a good way. How do we go from spending £3 million on a player like Sam Lammers to recouping pennies when it's time to shift him on? It's amateur hour at Rangers, and the AGM laid it bare for all to see. This kind of ineptitude in the transfer market is part of why we're miles behind Celtic financially. They're over there selling players for 8-figure sums and reinvesting smartly while we're doing a supermarket sweep of bargain bin offers. If we want to be serious contenders, this has to stop. It's not just about buying the right players, it's about selling them at the right time and for the right price. Right now, we're losing on both ends of the deal, but it's not just about the boardroom, is it? Every time Rangers fans hear about another paltry fee, it's a reminder that things need to change drastically. A recruitment overhaul is non-negotiable. We can't afford another summer like this one, not when the gap between us and Celtic keeps widening. We need players with resale value, a clear plan, and the guts to stick to it. Here's the fiery one for you. Do Rangers need a total shake-up at the board level to fix this transfer mess, or is the blame on the managers for failing to get the best out of these players? Let's hear it below. If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.